So let us discuss today convex analysis. That is, we are going to discuss two things: convex sets and convex functions. Let's begin with the definition. A subset C of Rn is called convex if you take a line segment between 2 points x and y of the set C, then the line segment itself belongs to the set C. So let me explain this a bit more carefully by a geometric example. Let us say that this is a set. Okay, so this is a convex set. Why? Because if I take 2 points x and y, 2 points x and y in this set C, so this is my set C, and then consider a line segment joining these x and y. Okay, so I consider the line segment joining x and y. Then what I want is this complete line segment should belong to set C, which is what is happening. Now the question is, how does this represent complete line segment? So you say you start from point y, okay? You start from point y and go some distance up till here, a fraction of the distance of x minus y. So I take a fraction between, the fraction is between 0 and 1 in the direction of, in this direction. Starting from here, y, I take a small fraction is between 0 and 1. So if alpha is set to 0, where am I? I am at y. If alpha is set to 1, where am I? Y minus y plus x, so I am at x. If alpha is between 0 and 1, where am I? I am on this line segment. So therefore, this can be written as, if you expand it as alpha x plus 1 minus alpha y, where alpha is between 0 and 1, 0 and 1 included. So the square brackets here indicate that the 0 and 1 are included. If I write like this, it would mean open bracket of between 0 and 1. So this would actually imply alpha strictly less than 1 and alpha strictly greater than 0. If I write it as open bracket, let's say on one side, and close bracket on other side, then this would mean alpha strictly greater than 0 but less than or equal to 1. So which is the bracket which I am using here? I am using the closed bracket, which means that endpoints x and y are also included. So a subset C of Rn is called convex if for any 2 points x and y in the set C, the complete line segment joining x and y also should belong to C. So here is an example of a set which is not convex. Alright. So if you take for example a line segment x and y here, it belongs to it belongs to set S. No problem. Both x and y endpoints are in the set C. I am sorry, are there in the set C, and the line segment belongs to set C. But this is not true for every line segment with the endpoints in set C. For example, if I to take x and y here, where the endpoints are again in set C, and I draw a line segment, then this part is outside of the set C. So therefore, this set is not a convex set. So let's draw a couple of more of convex sets. Is a convex set, or and and let's say I take a set like this, which is union of these two sets C1 and C2, then this is not a convex set. This is a convex set. This is not a convex set. All right. So now I think it is clear to us that what we mean by a convex set. So let's now quickly define a convex function. Okay. So let C be a convex set. All right. Uh, or a convex subset of Rn. A function f defined from C to R, the real line, is called convex if f of alpha x plus 1 minus alpha y, that is on actually on the line segment joining x and y, where x and y should come again in from the convex set, then this is less than or equal to alpha of x plus 1 minus alpha of f of y for all x, y in C and all alpha 0 to 1. See, whenever I say this, uh, whenever I say this x, y in C, a combination like this alpha x plus 1 minus alpha y, where alpha is can be between 0 and 1, 0 and 1 included. I will call it as a convex combination. This line segment is what is called as a convex combination. So what we are now saying here is x and y coming from C, and I look at the convex combination, and then because the set is convex, this complete convex combination is embedded in the set C. So therefore, and the function f is defined from C to R, so therefore the function can be evaluated here. So function is defined from C to R. C is a convex set. X and Y are the points in the convex set. So the whole line segment is also in the convex set, and hence this function can be evaluated. When you evaluate this function, what you should get is that it is less than or equal to the what you would obtain by linear interpolation of f of x and f of y. Again, let's look at an example, a very simple example. Okay, this, and I am taking f of x to be equal to x square. You will get a cup kind of a thing. Okay, so you get a nice cup kind. You get a nice cup kind of a thing. Let me touch it at the origin also. So setting it at the origin. Now this is a convex set, because if you take any 2 points, actually I will, for the sake of simplicity, take this on the one side and this other one on the other side. Let me call it as x1 and x2. Now this is a univariate function. So what is C? the C is the complete real line itself. And the complete real line is always a convex set. Complete Rn is also a convex set, because if you take any 2 points on a real line and connect a line segment, that also line segment is a real number only, so it belongs to that same set. Or if I take Rn and I take any 2 points in Rn and join them, whatever points are there on the line segment are again in the Rn. So Rn is also by definition a default convex set. So now here, let me call this as x and y, the way we are calling it here. And I connect a line segment here. Okay. Now I connect a line segment here. Now, if I take any point intermediate between this x and y, that is on this line segment x and y. So this is our alpha x plus 1 minus alpha of y, where alpha is coming from 0 to 1 closed interval. And if I evaluate the function here, then this is, let's call this point as z. So then I look at f of z. So you can see that this f of z is, and this is the point which is obtained by linear interpolation. So this point is obtained by linear interpolation. And how do you call that point? As alpha of fx plus 1 minus alpha of f of y. And how did you get this? The same idea. Start at y, the function value is f of y. Then from here, from y, we went a fraction alpha in the direction of x minus y. So similarly here, we went a direction alpha in the from fy towards f of x, because that's what is happening in function here. And that gave us alpha times of fx plus 1 minus alpha times of f of y. So therefore, now it is very clear to you, I hope, that this represents the interpolated value on the line segment corresponding to the function value, and this x and this y and this z, which is obtained by alpha x plus 1 minus alpha y, is the interpolated value of this domain variable x on this line segment. Now, the function is convex if the interpolated value is greater than or equal to the actual value of the function. So I take another example. Again, I am taking, because I want to do it with a simple graphs. So let's take this, and let's take a straight line y is equal to mx plus c. Now let's take 2 points x1, x and y, and let us look at the line segment joining this. Now any point z on this convex combination, which is nothing but alpha x plus 1 minus alpha y, alpha between 0 and 1, 0 and 1 included. If you look at the linearly interpolated value, this is f of z, and if you look at the actual value also, so sorry, this is actually f of z, and if you look at the linear interpolated value, it is also the same. This is also the linearly interpolated value, because you connect between f of x and f of y, the straight line, and then come back alpha distance here on this interpolated value. This is what you get. But the function value is also the same, So therefore, by definition, this holds at equality. This holds at equality. And if it holds at equality also everywhere, then our definition is valid, and hence the straight line is also a convex function on R, is it not? So the straight line also becomes a convex function on R. Very good. Uh, so we got two definitions of two very simple illustrations of convex function. Now let's also define what we mean by a concave function. Okay, so what we mean by a concave function? So a concave function, f everything else about the set C being convex and function being defined on this convex set, and the convex set being a subset of Rn, and the function is from C to R, all that thing remains the same. The thing is, f is concave if minus f is convex. That's it. So, so let us look at an example of a concave function. I had told you that x square is a convex function. So minus of x square will be a concave function. Let us put a straight line here. Let us put this here. This line has not come out well. So let's draw it again. Let's do it. Put it here. That's it. So this is a concave function. Is it not? Because this is minus of f of x is equal to minus of x square, and hence it is a concave function. The moment you do take reciprocal minus of f, what will you get? You will get the other kind of thing. F of x minus of f of x is going to be x square, which already we have seen is a figuratively we have seen that it is a convex function. Now let's look at some more definition, some more illustrations of convex sets, because convex functions are defined on convex sets. Let us look at some more illustrations of the convex sets. So a set S which represents a hyperplane. Okay. So first example I am taking is that hyperplane is a convex set. Why? First of all, what is a hyperplane? So hyperplane is a set X subset of Rn. S is a subset of Rn. It is a set of all X vectors. By Rn I mean x1, x2 to xn n tuple, with each of these coordinates being real. So X set of all X such that P transpose X is equal to alpha. Okay, so P is called the normal and alpha is some scalar. Alpha is usually some scalar. This P is called the normal to this hyperplane. It is also called as gradient to the hyperplane. We'll see why. First, let's take a concrete example. Okay, let's make it, let's instantiate it in a 3 dimension. So in a 3 dimension, you would be looking at, let's say, set S to be x1, x2, x3. The x vector will be a 3 tuple such that, let me say that x1 plus 5x2 plus 2x3, or let me call it as minus of x3, just so that plus and minus both are there, is equal to 4. Okay. Now let us see how can I express it as P transpose X? Yes, I can express it as 1, 5 minus 1, x1, x2, x3. Call this row vector as P transpose, which is to say that P is 1, 5 and minus 1. So P transpose becomes this, and so this becomes P transpose X. What is alpha here? Alpha is equal to 4. So this notion of a plane, a line in 2 dimension, a plane in 3 dimension, when extended in n dimension, becomes a hyperplane. So the plane in 3 dimension, a similar abstraction of it in n dimension would be what is called as a hyperplane. Now let's see why P is called a gradient. Okay, so let's say a function f of x is defined as P transpose of x. So if you look at the gradient vector of f of x, which is nothing but gradient of f with x1, f of f with x2, and so on up f of x with respect to xn. If you look at this, then this f of x is what? P1 x1 plus P2 x2 and so on up to Pn xn. So gradient of f of x with x1 is P1 and so on. Gradient of f of x with respect to xn is Pn. So therefore gradient of f of x with respect to gradient vector is nothing but P1, P2 and so on up to Pn, which is nothing but equal to the vector P, which we wrote here. Hence P can be called as a gradient vector also. Okay, this P can be called as a gradient vector. Now the next question is, why is it called a normal? So normal to what? Normal to the hyperplane. So why is it called as normal to the hyperplane? Called a normal to the hyperplane because let's say x1 is one point such that P transpose x1 is equal to alpha. That means x1 belongs to set S. Let's say x2 is another point such that P transpose x2 is equal to alpha. This implies x2 belongs to set S, and let x1 not be equal to x2. So for example, if you are on a plane, this is one point x1, this is another point x2. Now subtract. So what do you get now? P transpose x1 minus x2 is equal to 0. So what does that mean? That means that P vector is orthogonal to x1 minus x2 vector. So therefore, if you just connect this with a straight line x1 minus x2, and then if you want to draw the P vector, it's going to be here or the other way around. It's orthogonal to x1 minus x2. So orthogonal or other way word for it is not. So it is normal to P vector is normal to every uh, vector in or line in the plane. Hence it is normal to the plane itself, and hence P is also called as a normal of the hyperplane. Okay. Now what are we saying? This was about the definition of a hyperplane. Now what was our statement? Our statement was hyperplane represents a convex set. So let's say that x1 and x2, or let's say x and y, are 2 points in set S. Okay, so therefore what do we get? We get P trans and x, let's take not equal to y. So this we get, this is another thing that we get. Okay, now what should we be looking? we should be looking at convex combination of x and y. So let us say take a point z which is convex combination of x and y. So where does the alpha come from? Alpha comes from the closed interval between 0 and y. Now let's evaluate the point on this line segment. Okay, this is a point. Now let's evaluate if what happens to the P transpose Z. Okay, if if let's expand it, P transpose Z. So P transpose Z will become plus alpha, substituting for this. But then okay, let me now use, because I have already used alpha in the definition of uh, convex sets, sorry, in the definition of hyperplane. For convex combination, let me use gamma as the variable. So I will get this as P transpose X plus 1 minus gamma P transpose Y. But this is again, what is this? P transpose X is alpha B, because X is a point on the hyperplane. What is P transpose Y? Again alpha, because it is on the hyperplane. So if you take alpha common, this will become gamma plus 1 minus alpha, which is equal to alpha. So where did the point Z end up? The point Z also ended up on hyperplane. So that means that the convex combination, the all points on this convex combination of x and y are also on the hyperplane. So if all points on the convex combination are also on the hyperplane, then hyperplane becomes a convex set. Okay. Now, just like a line, okay, divides, the line divides a plane into two halves. Let's call this as h minus, and let's call this as h plus. This line divides this plane into two halves. Similarly, in 3 dimension, okay, think of a plane extending all the way, think of the plane extending all the way here. You will have, it will divide the 3 dimensional space into two halves. So in general, what I am trying to say is the hyperplane P transpose X is equal to alpha. This is a hyperplane. It divides the n-dimensional plane Rn into two halves, h minus and h plus, where I will say that the h minus, which is what I am taking right now as my set S, is nothing but set of all points such that P transpose set of all x such that P transpose of x is less than or equal to alpha. Okay, so set of, this is what is the thing that I am taking is the h minus. So what is h plus? Set of all x such that P transpose x is greater than or equal to alpha. Okay, so the boundary P transpose x equal to alpha, the hyperplane is included in both h plus and h minus. That is nothing but, if you look at the intersection of h plus and h minus, it is the hyperplane P transpose x is equal to alpha. Now I am saying that whether it is h plus or h minus, I am taking for illustration h minus is a convex set. How do you check that? So choose x1 from S, or in our case h minus, which implies that P transpose X1 is less than or equal to alpha. Choose X2 another point from the half space, lower half space. So you get P transpose X2 is equal to is less than or equal to alpha. Now take a line segment convex combination of x1 and x2, which is to say that you take z, which is to, again we have alpha, so I should use gamma here, or let me retain this alpha here, and for set I will change this to c. Okay, so set P transpose of x is less than or equal to c. So alpha comes from the closed set 0 1, closed interval 0 and 1. Now if the half space is convex, then what should happen? If H minus is convex, it should imply that P transpose Z, the convex combination of x1 and x2, should also meet this requirement that this is less than or equal to C. So therefore, we need to basically evaluate this and check if it is less than or equal to the constant C on the RHS there. So you take P transpose, substitute Z, which is coming from the convex combination. The moment I say convex combination, remember, and I write it, remember, even if I don't write it, alpha is between 0 and 1. So 1 minus alpha is also between 0 and 1. Together they sum to unity. So P transpose of this will become alpha times P transpose of x1 plus 1 minus alpha times of P transpose of x2. But this I can write it as less than or equal to P transpose of alpha C plus 1 minus alpha less than or equal to P transpose of C. Why? Because why could I take this jump? Because I know that P transpose x1 is less than or equal to alpha, it being belonging to H minus. Similarly, x2 also be belonging to H minus is less than or equal to, I'm sorry, I should use C here. Uh, P transpose x2 is also less than or equal to C, it be belonging to H minus. So, and this alpha and beta being positive, alpha and 1 minus alpha being positive numbers, I can immediately say that alpha times of P transpose of x1 will be less than or equal to alpha times of C. If alpha was negative, it would have become greater than or equal to. But if like P transpose x1 is less than or equal to 5, then 0.1 of P transpose x1 will be less than or equal to 0.1 times of 5, which is what I have written here. Similarly, same logic applies here. So therefore, this is also less than or equal to this. So summation of 2 less than or equal to will give me another less than or equal to, which is given here. But then this is nothing but equal to alpha c plus 1 minus alpha c will be nothing but equal to c. So P transpose this, which is equal to this, is less than or equal to this, which is equal to c, means P transpose z, the convex combination, is also less than or equal to c, which means now if the convex combination is embedded in the H minus, which means that H minus is a convex set. Okay, so this is another nice example. One more example, and then we'll move on. So the one more example is that I am going to take a convex cone. So, so now you can see that convex sets have a very good geometry, and that's what makes it very easy for a human mind to understand it quickly. So a convex cone in, in just two dimension is x2 greater than mod of x1, which is a subset of R square, is a convex set. How? We'll just draw it and check it. in two dimension we have the simple simply we can draw and check. So let's say x1 is positive, okay, x1 is positive, then you draw x2 equal to x1 line. So that is the 45-degree line. Okay. And then x2 is greater than or equal to this. So that means I can I can take I can look at this all the shaded region above. Okay. Now let's look at x2 x1 being negative. Okay. Now if x1 is negative, then what should be I should be looking at. Again, I am looking at x2 is greater than or equal to modulus of minus of x1. No, x1 is negative, but this is same as modulus of x1. So that means I am looking at a 45-degree line here, and again because x2 should be greater than or equal to this, so I am looking at this. Now, is this not a convex set? Because if I take any two, I'm sorry, is this not a convex set? Because if I take any 2 points inside here and draw the line segment, it is inside of it. Or even if I take it on the boundary, one on this side, one on its side, even then the complete line segment is inside this set S. Or if I take it on the same one here, then I have already shown to you that a straight line is a convex set. So this is also completely on the same line. And the same thing holds true here. So these are the only four possibilities. The endpoints are on the two sides of the endpoints are on the two sides of the origin, or endpoints are on both sides of the one side of the origin and strictly inside, or they are on the boundary. All of the points we have checked, you can see that it is a convex set. Okay. With this introduction to the definition of convex sets and convex functions, we will stop here and we will continue with the properties in the next lecture. Thank you.